It is truly remarkable how a single Supreme Court decision can ripple through generations, profoundly shaping a nation's understanding of justice and equality. Have you ever wondered about the legal precedent that cemented segregation in American society for decades? The Plessy versus Ferguson Supreme Court case of 1896 famously upheld the doctrine of separate but equal. The court ruled that racial segregation did not violate the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, as long as the separate facilities provided for different races were deemed equal. This controversial decision hinged on the court's interpretation that the 14th Amendment was intended to establish political and civil equality, but not social equality. The majority opinion argued that segregation implied no inferiority of one race to another, stating that separate facilities were not inherently discriminatory if they were outwardly equal in quality. However, Justice John Marshall Harlan, in his powerful dissent, accurately foretold that this ruling would prove to be a tragic mistake, arguing that the Constitution should be colorblind and that separate accommodations inevitably led to racial prejudice and subordination. The Plessy versus Ferguson decision provided a legal framework for states and local governments to institutionalize racial discrimination, primarily through what became known as Jim Crow laws. Across the American South and beyond, this ruling allowed for the widespread implementation of separate facilities for African Americans and white Americans in virtually all public spheres, including transportation, public restrooms, schools, and even cemeteries. This meant that any challenge to segregation could be dismissed as long as the facilities, however unequal in practice, were ostensibly separated. This landmark ruling effectively enshrined de jure segregation, meaning segregation enforced by law, into the fabric of American society. The Plessy decision stood as the primary legal justification for racial segregation for nearly 6 decades, profoundly impacting the lives of millions and creating a system of systemic discrimination that was pervasive and deeply entrenched. Its eventual overturning by Brown versus Board of Education in 1950 marked a pivotal shift in the ongoing struggle for civil rights. Understanding the Plessy versus Ferguson case is crucial because it highlights how judicial interpretations of fundamental rights can dramatically alter the course of history and the lived experiences of citizens. It serves as a stark reminder of the long and arduous battle for true equality and the enduring impact of legal precedents on societal progress, ultimately reinforcing the importance of vigilant advocacy for justice and equal protection under the law for all.